Welcome to Vegas Legal Magazine podcast. I'm Mark Fierro with Fierro Communications and Tyler Morgan, publisher of Vegas Legal Magazine. Thank you so much for joining us today. For so many of us, we spend our entire careers trying to climb to the top of our respective fields. And for a select few, getting to the top is just the beginning. That's the case for today's guest, who became arguably the best hand surgeon in Las Vegas. And then, and you knew there was an and then, decided to change paths, start all over again. If that wasn't enough, came to the Las Vegas Valley to open his new business just when that uninvited guest, the COVID-19 virus, came to town. Dr. Nitin Engineer, owner of Engineered Aesthetics. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So timing is everything. You'll get a great story out of it, but tell us, for starters, how do you go out of hand surgery and then take on this whole new profession?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. My first love in medicine was hand surgery. At the age of 17, I started as an anesthesia technician back in my hometown of Macon, Georgia. And I was exposed to hand surgery, and one of the hand surgeons there took me under his wing, and I really started to observe a lot of these procedures, these amazing, technically engineered procedures to get people back to their life. And then ultimately what happened is when you get to medical school, you start to figure out, how do you become a hand surgeon? Well, there are three different pathways. There's plastic surgery, there's general surgery, and then there's orthopedic surgery. And initially I considered the option of doing either plastic surgery or general surgery. And in the beginning, my passion was really focused on hand surgery. So ultimately, I ended up getting a general surgery residency. And then after that, I ended up getting a plastic hand surgery fellowship, where I met my mentor, the greatest mentor probably in my career, Dr. Brad Wilhelmi, who at the time was the hand fellowship director at Southern Illinois University in Springfield, Illinois. Ultimately, he went on to become the chairman of plastic surgery at the University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky. He gave me my second job with him as a partner, as a hand surgeon. And then the goal there was to stay at the University of Louisville and become and do a plastic surgery fellowship and stay maybe in that area. But during that time period, I ended up finding a tremendous job here in the Las Vegas Valley. And I moved out here. I went into practice as a hand surgeon. I kind of broke his heart, and I know I disappointed him, but he always remained my mentor. And about 10 years later, after doing that, and after being in practice here in Las Vegas, I had an amazing opportunity to go back and train in plastic surgery. He called me and said, hey, listen, there's a spot that's opened up for a plastic surgery fellowship. And I thought about you, and I wanted to see if you'd be interested in doing that. And at this point, I'd already started up my hand surgery practice. I was in private practice. Things were rolling along, and I just couldn't turn it down. And you know, when opportunities like that happen twice, especially in something as competitive as plastic surgery, I just had to jump on it. And this was my mentor and the guy that's changed my life. And so I went back. That was in 2016. I went back and did a 3-year full accredited plastic surgery fellowship from 2016 to 2019. Moved back here. Was planning on starting my practice in 2020. It was such a poignant year. It's got a great number, 2020, the year of perfect vision, and opened the practice, opened the doors on January 17th, and the next thing you know, COVID-19 hits. And you can imagine, to my dismay, that has just really put a little wrench in the works. But you got to think about it positively. You got to think about all the things that have come out of it. It really slowed me down into figuring out how I'm going to structure this new practice, really doing a lot of behind the scenes type of work. Everything that we're putting together for our patient education, the structure, the infrastructure has been really well calculated and really well thought out. And I think that the services that we're going to provide to this community and the products that we are providing to this community is much more elevated now. It wasn't a hasty decision. It wasn't a hasty process in getting everything off the ground. And more importantly, one of my greatest colleagues, a gentleman named Daniel Horning, who used to work with me in our previous practice. I've worked with him for 10 years now. Initially, he started as a medical assistant in our initial practice. He's now our practice manager. So that tells you a little bit about the loyalty that this practice is based on. And currently we have 3 employees along with me, and things are just doing really well. And we've had to rethink some things as COVID-19 came around. The services that we provided initially, we wanted to do cosmetic, reconstructive, and hand surgery. But when the virus struck, everything got put on hold. So now we're really concentrating on urgent problems, urgent and emergent issues. So really, a lot of the things that I'm seeing now are burns, wound care, hand and upper extremity ailments, and with time, the cosmetic practice will build again. But everything takes time, and everything has its right place. So we're really excited about how things are moving along right now.
How does telemed in plastic surgery really work? Because I don't know too much about plastic surgery other than what I've seen on like nip tuck, but there's a lot of like drawing on the body and marking and X's. So how do you do that in a telemed setting so that you can kind of be prepared to actually do the procedure down the road when the surgical centers and everything open up?
Oh, it's fantastic. So that's a great question, because we've had to get creative. As part of our practice, we've implemented some 3D virtual reality software. The company that we use is Chrysalix. And actually, the patients can use this in the office, or they can use it at home. So for instance, if a patient calls me and says, hey, listen, doc, I want to have a rhinoplasty consultation, we'll set up an appointment via Zoom. Zoom has been great. And so I subscribe to Zoom for healthcare, and this keeps everything HIPAA compliant. And it's been really good to communicate with patients, just like what we're doing right now. But it's very secure, and we get to record those conversations. We put it into the patient's medical records, but then we can ask the patient to take pictures, and those pictures are uploaded into the Chrysalix software, and it's truly a 3-dimensional recreation of the patient's nose, and we can change that with our software to demonstrate, oh, you've got a dorsal hump, we can reduce that here, and this is what it may look like. We tell the patients, we have to be fully transparent with them. This is not exactly how you're going to look, but these are the changes that we're aiming to make. And it's fantastic. We can do that for the face, the breast, and the body. So anything, if a patient comes in and has large pendulous breasts and wants to have a breast reduction, we have them take 3 pictures, they upload it into the software, and then we can manipulate that with them while they're on the Zoom conversation with us. And it's fantastic. The patients are really—
It's probably something you can use moving forward too, after all this, correct?
Absolutely. In fact, we have that in our office. We actually have them put on the virtual reality goggles, and we can change everything. They can look down to see what their breasts would look like with larger implants, what their nose may look like. We actually, once we have the new office built out, we're actually going to have large screen TVs that will act as mirrors. So I can stand adjacent to the patient, and the patient says, hey, listen, let's try on 350 cc implants. I can change that. They can look in the screen, and it looks like they're looking in the mirror, and they can have enlargement of the breast or decrease it. It's fantastic. The virtual reality software out there is so amazing right now, and there's so many different companies. We chose to go with Chrysalix because it's small, it's efficient. The virtual reality aspect of it and using these Oculus glasses that blew me away, and so we've been very happy with how that's working so far.
What do you think? Is there pent-up demand right now? People have stayed at home. They're looking at themselves in the mirror. A lot of people are working out harder than they ever have before. A lot of people are, people complain about gaining weight. A lot of people are losing weight because they're not eating, $150 dinner every single night and, having that bottle of wine every single night. Do you think there's pent-up demand when they go ahead and allow surgeries to return, that things may actually see a bump?
Yeah, well, there's 2 things to consider here. So obviously, the economy has taken a hit, and we saw this back in 2008, 2009. As the economy took a hit, there was a slow down period of a lot of these elective aesthetic procedures, and it was more essential stuff that was getting done. But then that rise occurred once the economy bounced back after 2011, 2012, and so on. I think we're going to experience some of that. But with this period of social distancing and quarantine and so on, we're finding that people have a lot more time on their hands. They have time to do few things. They have the time to look at themselves in the mirror. They have the time to say, hey, listen, when this is all over, I'd really like to change this about myself. Patients that have had large weight loss or massive amounts of weight loss, they may have a little excess skin, and they've always considered, hey, maybe I want that tummy tuck when I come out of this. So yeah, a lot of that is still it's based on time, but it's also going to be based on the economy. And I wish I had a crystal ball to see exactly how that's going to play into everything, because the first time around, it was just economy. Now we're dealing with a virus, and now we're dealing with restrictions in a surgery center or a hospital. When are we going to be able to schedule these patients, et cetera? But I'm still getting those consultations on the phone. We're still making these virtual consultations. I've used it to the patient's advantage, especially a patient that may want to come in and have a breast reduction and maybe a mommy makeover, abdominoplasty, or whatever it may be, to let them know, hey, now we have time. Let's get you to your ideal weight. Let's get you to that point where you need to be, and then we can do your procedure. So it'll be more longer lasting. It'll get you to a more satisfactory result after it's all done. And some of these patients they're loving that idea, that waiting instead of going, immediately jumping into the operating room. They're giving it about 3 months, getting on a nice healthcare regimen, a dietary regimen. And ultimately, I think the long-term results will be much better for it.
How hard is that conversation with patients a lot of the times when you have to kind of tell them, look, we can't go 150 miles an hour right up front. Like, you got to take the steps. You got to kind of ease into it. And, it's a progression, it's a bit of an endurance over time to get to where you want, because everybody's so just, I want it now. I want change. I want everything immediately.
Yeah, I think more than anything, I'd say 7 to 8 out of 10 patients will appreciate that. They like the idea that, hey, I'm not just gunning to get them into the operating room, get their procedure done, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, kind of deal. No, this is a process. This is a journey that I'm not going to be just spending with you, for a couple of weeks, do the operation, then see you a couple of times, and then see you later. No, this is a journey. This is a true 1 to 2 year process where I want to see all these transformations. Even a breast augmentation patient that comes to see me, I want to see them, at a week, at a month, at 3 months, at a year, and then every year thereafter. So we want to see these people really maintain their results, because ultimately I take pride in the results that I give to my patients, and I take pride in the care that we provide. So I think that's very important to maintain that. So to answer your questions, patients love that idea of taking it nice and slow and easy and planning everything out in a methodical way.
One of the biggest barriers for your business, I've heard it from our clients over and over and over again who are considering having work done, is I just can't take the time afterwards for the healing process. I can't be walking around and have people staring at these, bruises or whatever, procedure they're having done. Seems like that part of it would take care of itself immediately. They'd be there the first day that you got your doors back open again.
Yeah. Once again, that period of quarantine, I've had a couple of patients text me directly and say, man, I really wish I would have had that procedure done back in February before this all hit, because this has been a perfect time. I'm just sitting at home. It would have been a great time to recover. So yeah, there is that discussion from time to time. And I do think that patients will be ready to go, but just think about it. When we're opening our doors, gradually everything else is going to be opening their doors too. So we'll have to go back to the standard of how things were prior to the crisis, and realizing that patients are going to have to take a little bit of time out of their schedule in order to achieve the results that they want.